Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our cyber webinar today. I'm delighted to announce a fantastic lineup, and it's great to see everybody joining today as well. So thank you for giving up your time, and hopefully you've got a sandwich and a cup of coffee in front of you. Today we have Gary Lilburn from the Cyber Defence Alliance, who have been a fantastic supporter to ourselves at SBRC over the last few years, and especially to myself in the last few months. Stevie Wilson and Gary have been amazing. We've also got Harry McLaren from Adarma, who is also another great supporter of SBRC. And I'm delighted to have the younger generation of the cyber world who have just joined SBRC in the last few weeks. We've got Declan Doyle, and we've also got our amazing woman in cyber, Kirsty Steele. So I'm going to hand over to somebody I forgot to mention, but you all know him anyhow. It's Eamon Keane. Jazz hands.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Jude. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for taking time out for this informal webinar in regards to cyber. And I kind of wanted to focus on pre-COVID and now, and where we now as organizations, and what's the new norm for us with our displaced workforce, working from home, cyber vulnerabilities, and endorsing what Jude says there. We have got an eclectic bunch to deliver this morning. Gary, the international perspective; Harry, business; Kirsty, in regards to what's going on at the Scottish Government Cyber Resilience Unit; and Declan, in regards to looking at some of the recent attacks in regards to the likes of Garmin ransomware, Blackbaud, and more. I will always encourage you to use the chat bar. I see some friendly faces on there. Robbie, Ross, our previously Cyber Protect Officer, now with Converged IT. Plenty of engagement, please. Lynn, also, so please get involved, and we really want to leave no unanswered questions. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Gary, who's got a slide deck and give us the international perspective in regards to what's happening on the cyber scene.
Thanks very much, Eamon. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, good to go.
Lovely. Okay, ladies and gents, thanks very much. Thanks for the warm welcome. I'm very grateful. I'm quickly going to run through this. I will cover quite a lot of ground. I'm just going to cover the who are we, who's the CDA, what do we do, how did we prepare for the pandemic when we got the early heads up, and how we shaped our sort of strategy in relation to that. We're starting with the background and strategy of the CDA. We're a not-for-profit company. Established in 2015, and we're member owned. We work with, and our members are the Allied Irish Bank, Bank of Ireland, Barclays, Deutsche Bank, Lloyds Banking Group, Metro Bank, Santander, and Standard Charter. We also have what we call sort of partnership members, and that's Nationwide Building Society and the NatWest Group, formerly RBS. But we do work with many, many other banks. The good thing about having a group this size is that we can have a very high level of trust amongst us. So we're very regularly, we have daily calls, but we jump on all sorts of different group meetings and calls, and there's a lot of trust in that relationship, and allows people to admit what's gone wrong so we can get it right. We very much at the CDA play a coordination role amongst those banks, but we've got a proactive approach to cyber network defence, but also cyber enabled crime. We very much believe that you've got to converge the two. For a long time, industry and certainly law enforcement would see it as two different departments. We very much are bringing them two together, accepting there's different skill sets, but that they really must work together. We try and get actionable intelligence, so we seek for that within the UK, but we also seek that internationally to send it out internationally. So yesterday we found that a French bank had been breached. We got that information to them, but we also try and do the same domestically. Even just yesterday, myself and Eamon spoke about a Scottish business that had a potential network breach. We quickly get that intelligence out to you guys so that a Scottish Business Resilience Centre can take the right action. We also do that with law enforcement. Our priorities are very much aligned to our 4 strategic pillars. I'm going to whiz through this, guys. First one, proactive network defence, making sure they don't get into that corporate environment. The second one is instant support, instant response. This one slide I can speak for an hour on, so I'm really whizzing through it. But instant response, should they get into the system, should there be an attack on the bank, what can we do? As I said before, CDA very much a coordinating role, getting all the banks on. If one's been hit, they'll say how it happened. What are the TTPs? What was the vector? How was it done? How can we learn from that? We then move on to pillar 3, and that's for us is attribution, arrest, and disruption. Who did attack the banks? How are they doing it? How can we get ahead of that in future? What's the mitigation? What's the controls? But can we get these people arrested? Can we identify who they are? But we also try and look at the strategic assessment. So what's coming over the hill? What's the latest innovation? What can we innovate to make ourselves better? and that's the part that really helps with the pandemic and the planning. Our core services is that we do open source intelligence collection. So that's all sorts of things. We put out a daily report. You can actually sign up for that through the Scottish Business Resilience Centre. Eamon will tell you more about that later. But it's very much looking at, what are the latest cyber attacks, exploits, vulnerabilities, data breaches, what are the new domains that have been created for our banks. We also look at the sort of geopolitical stuff that's going on. Closed source intelligence collection, so we go all across about 550 different cybercrime forums. Some are dark web, some are open source, clear sites. What are they speaking about? Who they plan to attack? What's the malware they're selling? We also look at paste sites, messaging apps, social media, IRCs, but we also have some vendors as well that helps us with that intelligence collection, so we can then do that development. We've also got special interest action groups, so it's whatever our members want. Currently, we've got them for cloud security, insider threat, ATMs, malware, and geopolitical. We also try and make sure we train our staff and also the banks we work with. And as mentioned before, we do a big role with incident management. And we also look at what are the top threats to the banks. We look at those threats, we model them, we map them against controls, allows people to do gap analysis and see where they need to maybe learn from another bank, do benchmarking, how can we get stronger. We also do a big role within FSCCC, so that's the Financial Sector Cyber Collaboration Centre, sits with NCSC in London. It's the 41 biggest firms that are considered critical national infrastructure within the financial sector, and we do a similar role for them as well. So our international partners, who did we reach out to deal with the pandemic? Who did we want to get information from? So the first one up there is NCFTA, very similar company to what we do at the CDA. They've been going a bit longer. They've been going since 2002. Stands for the National Cyber Forensics and Training Alliance. Very good outfit, very similar work to what we do. More of an American focus. We've got much more of a UK focus. US Secret Service, always exchanging intelligence with them almost on a daily basis. Europol, of course, Stevie Wilson, our CEO, he was the cyber head at Europol up until January when he joined us this year. JC3, very similar to us again, that's in Japan, that's the Japan Cybercrime Control Centre. That's got many banks, law enforcement sitting together. We do the same with Canada, CCTX, that's Canada Cyber Threat Exchange. Also CISO Lens. CISO Lens is for CISOs from Australian and New Zealand companies, collecting intelligence, disseminating it. And lastly, New Zealand CERT. I've got to stress, that's the ones I've listed because we really exchange lots of intelligence on a daily basis. There's many others we also reach out to, Interpol and so on. And of course, shouldn't forget Scottish Business Resilience Centre. As mentioned earlier, myself and Eamon regularly exchanging intelligence, trying to assist to make sure Scottish businesses are that bit more secure. The New Zealand CERT is very topical. Some of you may have read the New Zealand Stock Exchange has been hit with a DDoS. It's been going on for 3 days. And the good thing with them, they got much earlier in the morning than us. They told us about it. So 6 AM for us, we were able to tell our banks about it. How's it happening? What's the PCAPs? What can we do to defend against it? What's the group that's doing it? And it's a great exchange. So for the pandemic, we of course liaised with those partners, but also our UK partners. So UK Finance, CIFAS, who deal with fraud, FSCCC, who previously were mentioned, numerous law enforcement, but particularly the NCA and their Economic Crime Command, FSCCC, who have NCA there, and the NEC, which is, the Economic Crime Command, and CCU is the cyber outfit at the NCA. Liaised with those international partners. And from that, we reviewed our intelligence collection strategy. So what we used to do, what can we now do about the pandemic? What keywords do we need to change on our search? And how do we need to change that intelligence collection? We also stepped up in our insider threat group because, of course, many people with the pandemic were now starting to work from home, and that brought new challenges. We discussed mitigation and controls for that insider threat. But again, with people working from home, VTCs, VPNs, how secure are they? You might remember a lot of publicity about Zoom's weaknesses. Zoom wasn't actually weak, it was just how people were using it was weak. Most of any other issues were quickly fixed, but we made sure we get reporting that out to our various partners and banks. COVID lures, I won't go into too much. I know other people are going to touch on that, and PPE fraud, so I'll whiz past them once. We also had weekly and fortnightly touch points with our banks, what's going on, what's happening, how can we change our intelligence collection, what else can we do? Making sure that what we did was very much adapted and tailored to help them out. Once the pandemic got underway, we saw a change. So as we got into April, May, we saw a criminal focus towards the fiscal stimulus fraud. So the first one we saw was a self-assessment, which HMRC, where they're trying to support those who are self-employed. many overseas applicants. So we were able to advise banks what they could do. HMRC had a lot of pressure put on them to get that money out as quick as possible. They weren't able to do the same controls they might have. So we tried to get the banks to do some secondary controls, save millions for the government, and we saw many overseas applicants, clearly fraudulent in most cases. In early May, we moved into the bounce back loan, so another fiscal stimulus. Small businesses could apply for up to £50,000. You've possibly heard about the various frauds. We first noticed it within hours of it being released. Because of our intel collection across social media, we can see who was speaking about it. We can see it was big criminal networks. We can see what they were planning to do. So we got all the initial bounce back loan lenders together, 16 of them, and discussed the mitigation and controls that they could put in place to prevent these frauds. We also liaised with the UK Finances, the CIFAS's Cabinet Office, the NCA, their Economic Crime Command, and City of London Police. And for them, we prepared tactical and operational packages so they could go and do those arrests. So that third pillar of our strategy. We continue to do that intelligence collection. If you look on eBay, Gumtree, you'll see many limited companies for sale. I'm sure there might have been some prior to the 4th of May, but now there's very many. And we'll develop that intelligence. So we'll look who buys those companies, what is that director, and then look at the companies they're on and get that intelligence out to the banks to make sure we can stop those fraudulent BBL applications. That sharing still continues. We keep telling the banks who are doing those frauds, passing it into law enforcement, and particularly the methodology they're using so that we can get others stopped as well. That's me, Eamon. I'll pass back to yourself. I don't know if you want to leave questions till later on in this session.
Just unmute myself. Thanks, Gary. I did notice that one of the most common phrases since the pandemic has been, can you unmute yourself? Gary, a quick question for me, and we'll take questions and answers going forward. Often we see APT attacks or attacks on an organization to ghost other activity. Comment.
Sorry, Eamon, I'm going to ask you to repeat that because I've got half the question, but not all of it.
So often we see persistent threats or activity or malicious activity towards an enterprise or a company to ghost other activity. Are you seeing much of that in the intelligence feeds?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if a company has a DDoS attack, we always say to them, you know, is it just a DDoS attack? Are they not trying to knock you offline, or is that a diversion tactic? A lot of the APTs we follow, we try and find out what are their TTPs, what are the tactics they use. And many will do that. They'll use things like DDoS in order to try and get into the network and then do the various stages of an attack. But very much for us, that's what we do. We map how they work. What are the controls? What controls should you have to try and prevent each stage of that attack? I hope that answers your question.
No, and it's just to highlight that sometimes when there's lots of security people on as attendees today, and it's just sometimes to look behind what that attack is, maybe on their network. Just a quick question there in regards to the relationship between CDA, SBRC, NCSC, law enforcement, and I'll let Gary answer that question. He kind of alluded to it in regards to sharing intelligence around if there's nefarious activity on a Scottish enterprise. You know, we share that intelligence as quickly as we can, and the MOU and NDA in regards to that. So yes, we see the CDA at the, as a strong partner. Gary, in regards to your formal relationship with the NCSC?
Yeah, a very strong relationship. My background is law enforcement, 30 years, worked in cybercrime towards the latter end. So ended up with a very good networks like yourself, Eamon, across the different law enforcement. But because I also work for FSCCC, or CDA does, that means one of my members of staff sits at NCSC in there. So today, Extinction Rebellion, they're planning attacks on banks over the bank holiday. We make sure they're aware of it, make sure it gets out to those wider businesses who could be affected. So yeah, very strong connection with NCSC. But we also find that sometimes they're restrained on what they can do, so we find it's actually quicker and better. So I alluded to it yesterday, the event yesterday. So a Scottish business having an attack, we've got that straight to you, Eamon, for you to speak to businesses, give out mitigation advice, just so that speed is sometimes of essence. And so sometimes as well, we'll take different routes depending on what we're looking at.
And that supports the preventative ethos that we advocate. And I think in any other area of crime, prevention is the key here. And with that in mind, thank you, Gary. I'm going to introduce you to Kirsty in regards to some of the activity that we've been highlighting during COVID and the escalation or the increased reporting and sharing of intelligence we have. So Kirsty, over to you.
Thank you. Can everyone see my screen okay here? Yeah. And taking silence is a good thing.
Yeah.
So hi everyone, I'm Kirsty. It's good to see so many friendly faces or virtual faces in the chat box today. But for those of you that don't know me, I'm Kirsty Steele. I'm the Cyber Resilience Community Lead at the Scottish Business Resilience Centre. This is just a new post that I've joined within the last number of weeks. So my role will be to support Scottish businesses to build their cyber resilience through a range of capacity building and engagement activities. So I help people use technology securely and how to prevent and respond to cybercrime essentially. My previous role was within the Scottish Government Cyber Resilience Unit, and that's part of the policy team, and they've got a strategy called Safe, Secure and Prosperous, which was launched in 2015, which aims to ensure that Scotland is a secure place to...
Sorry, Kirsty, we can't see your PowerPoint presentation.
No problem, I will get that sorted.
Okay.
That's it now, Kirsty.
Got it? Sorry,
Yeah.
there wasn't anything interesting on that first screen. There we go. It's just my name. So I was saying that they've got this cyber resilience strategy, which aims to make Scotland a more secure place. So this strategy sits within the Scottish, in line with the Scottish Government's digital and economic strategies, but it's also closely aligned to the UK Government's national cyber strategy. And they have a framework in place for improving Scotland's cyber resilience by implemented through 5 action plans, which goes across all sectors. This afternoon, I'm going to focus on a little bit more about the types of scams that we've seen over the last number of months during COVID. So organisations and businesses have been rapidly deploying remote systems and networks to support staff working from home. Criminals are also taking advantage of the increased security vulnerabilities to steal data, generate profits, and generally cause disruption. So cyber criminals are preying on the fears of the coronavirus, and they're sending phishing emails that are trying to trick users into clicking onto a bad link. And once it's clicked, the user is sent to a dodgy website, which could make you download malware onto your computer or potentially try and steal your passwords. And the scams may claim to have a cure for the virus or offer a financial reward or just be encouraging you to donate to a charity. And the scams that are being sent by these criminals can be very hard to spot. You know, they're designed to get you to try and react without thinking or trying to trick you into doing the wrong thing. And while, you know, everyone else is worried about the coronavirus, cyber criminals have certainly seen this as an opportunity. A recent survey has shown that over half of Scots feel more at risk of cybercrime and fraud since the lockdown began, and almost 1 in 5 in the UK have received a scam email, call, text relating to COVID. And Action Fraud have reported that a total of just under £15 million has been reported lost by victims of a coronavirus-related scam. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of the scams that we've seen here. So we've seen a significant rise in the scams offering financial support, which is what Gary was talking about here. You know, there was lots of government grant schemes offering COVID relief funds, and cyber criminals took advantage of this, and they sent official-looking emails, you know, trying to get you to claim council tax reductions or COVID relief funds or bounce-back loans and more. And HMRC have been more than 10,000 phishing scams are being investigated by HMRC. In May alone, there was 5,000 of these scams, and that was 3 times higher than it was seen in March. So you can see the ramp up of activity there that the cyber criminals are clinging on to. We've seen a lot of health related scams. So phishing emails claiming to be from World Health Organization and other sort of advice like to keep you safe. They would attempt to get users to try and share their login details through these scams. You know, there was lots of people trying to purchase PPE, face masks, hand sanitizers at the start of the pandemic. So there's a real rise in activity for adverts, for these fake adverts for non-existing products. So they would pay for things, but eventually not get anything through the post at the end of the day. And there's lots of fake charity websites also set up trying to trick you into donating your money to these scam websites. And with the lockdown, we saw a rise in emails and text messages trying to frighten individuals into doing certain things. So there was emails and texts trying to tell people to self-isolate because they'd been in contact with somebody who had shown symptoms of the virus. Other messages saying that they had broken the lockdown rules and that they should be paying a fine because they've been seen outside the house. There was a rise in TV licensing, offering 6 months free to update your payment information now and you'll get that bonus. And there was money off for vouchers for food purchases, so lots of food money related scams as well. And there's been a rise in the fake investment opportunities advertised on social media. That's where you pay a little bit of money up front and they will claim to double your investment back. So give me £100 and I'll double it. So we saw a rise in these sort of Bitcoin investment scams as well. So their criminals' main method of attack over the last few months has been phishing emails, and they've basically revised their usual online scams with a sort of COVID-related theme to it. So impersonating companies, often banks and credit card companies, government, health authorities, to try and dupe you into giving over details, passwords and financial information. And the International Crime Police Organisation, Interpol, they did an assessment of the impact of cybercrime, and it's shown that there has been a significant shift between targeting individuals and small businesses to now major corporations, government and critical national infrastructure. And they've highlighted a few future concerns in the report, which has shown that there will be an increase in cybercrime is highly likely. With the increase of people working from home, vulnerabilities and the potential for them to increase their financial benefit, they're going to really ramp up their activities here to try and get as much out of it as they can. And the threat actors are likely to continue to profit over the COVID themes of this pandemic. So they're going to try and take advantage of the public over their concerns over the pandemic. So one potential could be, as soon as that there's a COVID vaccine available, this is highly likely that there will be a rise in another peak of phishing emails related to that, either to try and obtain the medical product, but as well as network intrusion and cyber attacks to try and steal that data as it appears. So if you receive an email which you're not sure about, you can now forward it to the Suspicious Email Reporting Service on the National Cybersecurity Centre's website. And this is built up on the NCSE's existing takedown service. So the message might come from a company that you don't normally receive communications from, or someone you don't know, or you might just have a hunch. But if you're suspicious of it, you should report it. Because by doing so, you're helping to protect more people from being affected. So forward any dubious emails to report@phishing.gov.uk. You will then, NCSE will test the validity of the site and basically remove any ones that are seen to be suspicious immediately. You can also send fake text messages to 7726. I actually spell spam on some keyboards on your phone, so hopefully that will be one that you can remember. So since the launch of this reporting service, this tool has received more than 1.9 million reports by the public, which has led to an increase of, led to the removal, of 7,080 websites being removed. So you can see the real advantage of the people in the public coming together and reporting these services to take down these sites. But there's lots of advice on the NCSE's website on what to do if you've already responded to a suspicious message. And if you become a victim, you should definitely report this to Police Scotland by calling 101. So working together with partners at the Scottish Government Cyber Resilience Unit, we're sharing important information from trusted sources, including the NCSE, Police Scotland and Trading Standards Scotland, as they are the recognised authorities on cyber security, cyber crime and scams. So this bulletin is to help increase awareness of the nature of the rise in the COVID scams, and then most importantly, it points you towards authoritative sources of advice and guidance to help you mitigate the impact and associated threats exploiting the scams. It's a joint collaboration between Scottish Government, Police Scotland, Scottish Business Resilience Centre and the Scottish Council of Voluntary Organisations. And you can view the bulletin and all the previous bulletins on the link that's on the screen there. I'll add it to the chat after my presentation here so you can get it. And if you go to that link, you'll see it's the most recent post on the page, and you might want to bookmark this page so that you can get it each week, so many weeks as it comes out. I would encourage you to share this information with others. There is one out this afternoon as well, so keep an eye on that one. There's some really good trending topics on it this week, if I do say so myself. It's a good one to check out. So I thought I would also share some of my COVID-19 cyber hygiene tips. So we've seen a lot of tips on the news of how to keep ourselves protected. This is how to keep our cyber security services a little bit more protected. So I've got my own acronym here. So C is obviously for clean your computers and systems and mobile devices. So you should disable any third party or outed components that you could be used as entry points. If you've got a really old app on your phone that you don't use anymore, or you've had it on for a few months and it's just sitting there, it's best just to remove it from your device. O is for observe your accounts and your passwords. Perform regular health checks on your computers and your mobile services. Ensure that you use strong passwords, such as 3 random words for all of your login details and accounts. V is obviously for virus, and you should use protective equipment such as an antivirus to ensure that you install it on your computer and you're doing regular sort of checks to see if there's any vulnerabilities there. I is for isolate your data. So make sure you've got a good backup of all your important files and store them independently from your system, either in the cloud or in an external hard drive. This will help you in many situations. And D is distance from unknown senders and avoid contact with suspicious emails and attachments. So yeah, don't click on any links or open any files on your computer that you weren't expecting to receive, or if it comes from an unknown sender. If you do get these emails, make sure you report it to your IT team and forward it on to the NCSE's service tool to take it down. And I want to finish with saying to you that advice and information is always changing, as we go through and change back into working from home and going back into the office. So it's always good to get your information from trusted sources. So you want to look to authoritative guidance from the Police Scotland on their website and the National Cyber Security Centre for their latest guidance. So the NCSE is the UK authoritative source for cybersecurity. They're part of GCHQ and they've got lots of tools and guides available there, including top tips to stay secure online, the Small Business Guide, which helps you improve cybersecurity within your organisation quickly, easily and at low cost by following 5 simple steps. And they've also got added guidance on using virtual video conferencing tools and also working from home. And I'd like to finish with saying, if you have become a victim of any sort of fraud, COVID related or not, always make sure that you report it to Police Scotland on 101.
Thanks, Kirsty, and thank you for that. And again, I'll offer the services of the SBRC, and as you can see, our network extends nationally and internationally, and that's why we're here today. Yes, clever acronym. Kirsty, I see you're following political leads there. I'll swiftly move over to our award-winning Cyber Evangelist and Young Person of the Year, and I'll introduce Harry.
Thank you, and nice to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to share my screen, just double check that's coming through. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, that's coming through.
Great, so I'm going to talk about two things. I'm going to talk about Cyber Scotland Connect, which for me is all about community, and especially the cyber community in Scotland. And then I'm going to share a little bit of insights from the company I work for, Adama. As I mentioned, my name's Harry McLaren. I'm the product lead at Adama for detection and response. So I'm squarely focused in detecting threat activity and responding to it in a timely fashion. I'm an alumnus of Napier University here in Edinburgh, and I'm the co-founder of Cyber Scotland Connect. Adama is fundamentally a threat management company. We run managed SOCs around the country, and we're headquartered here in Edinburgh. So first and foremost, what is Cyber Scotland Connect? Cyber Scotland Connect was founded now about 2.5, almost 3 years ago. And we're primarily focused to try and create a signposting organisation and a members-based organisation to focus on being a diverse hub. So that means that we're not here to, we don't collect fees, it's not a paid for membership, but what we are here to do is we run events, we signpost to our partners and supporters, and we try and make a cohesive and inclusive community for all of those that work in and around cybersecurity. That goes for everything from, recruiters and people that work in sales, but obviously is also focused on practitioners and the people at the cold face, who really obviously are, dealing with threat actors and trying to do their job in defending organizations. Our core values are to be judgment free. We're open and honest. We're sales and vendor neutral, meaning that, we don't do sales pitches or anything like that. And we have an absolute zero tolerance to bullying and harassment, and follow the Berlin Code of Conduct for all of our events. So just a little bit in the numbers. So we are run, essentially, our leadership is made up of 17 people. These are called our mods. We have a very flat hierarchy structure, and our moderators are just there to make sure that we, pay attention to our code of conduct, that we are true good stewards of the community, and the moderators themselves are made up of community members. We have so far hosted 13 events, more recently virtual due to the global pandemic, and we've facilitated 35 different speakers from quite a diverse range of backgrounds to speak on a whole range of topics, from mental health and burnout through to APT threat actors, malware deconstruction, career advice, a whole range of things. And we have a Slack group, which would encourage anyone to join who's interested in taking any of those conversations further. If you'd like to speak or just want to talk about cyber, do join us. And you can find our website by Googling our name, no problem. These are our moderators. I'll not go through and read everyone out, but just to say that, as you can see, we're essentially moderated by a collection of people from across the industry, including public sector, private sector, and so on. And we've got a number of other community leaders in here as well, such as the leaders of OWASP Scotland and other organisations that are made up inside. We're partnered with a whole group of fantastic organisations across Scotland, and organisations that are global as well. Again, I'm not going to read through the full list, but just to say that we've got a great representation of partners. Our partners essentially mean where we believe that there are significant overlaps in our values, and then we try and facilitate each other's success by including and focusing on our reach. So ensuring that the positive messages that all of these organisations have for the wider community within Scotland are given the best possible platform they can to our members. So the next collection, you'll see SBRC front and centre at the bottom there, and obviously some of the universities as well. Then finally, we've got organisations like SDS, Skills Development Scotland, some more universities, and Scotland IS, which are all great partners. The latest partner I did want to call attention to, and something that I think is really pertinent to the global pandemic at the moment, is the Scottish Tech Army. So the Scottish Tech Army was a really rapidly created organisation that is pretty much to put all of the practitioners, all of the people that have something to offer to Scotland in the technical space to support them during the pandemic. So essentially they have had, I think now they're into at least the double figures, of projects that have been proposed to them, and then they have sourced from within their membership, within their army, people to, for free, volunteer and support. So that has included everything from project and program management, security reviews, website design and development, app review, design and development, a whole gambit. And if you check out their website, you can suggest a project, but also become a volunteer. And they also run a fantastic Slack community, and which is how they run their organization. So highly recommend getting in touch with them and seeing if you have some time to volunteer and to go for it. What's next for Cyber Scotland Connect? I think the global pandemic has hit everyone hard. That includes us, our leadership, our members. Cyber crime has never been greater. We're always under attack. It means that people are experiencing much more burnout. I think there's an emotional tax to the pandemic, making almost everything we try and do that much harder. And so, you know, we've obviously moved our events virtual, and some of the things we're looking at but have yet to really do is we're looking at kind of thinking more about support in the wellbeing and mental health space. So we ran a number of workshops at Scott Secure earlier in the year in person, which was great. And from that, we've had a whole bunch of feedback from the community of what they would want out of a support group / the kind of mental health resources we think we should be signposting to. And that, as I take a deep breath, is then I'm now going to pivot and just give you a really short update from Adama's point of view. So we run managed security operations centres, as I mentioned, across Scotland in banking and retail and some other areas as well. And I think that one of the things that we've seen, obviously an uptake in certain types of attack vectors, as you've heard already, and you're going to hear from in a little bit as well, in that, you know, phishing, whaling attacks, spear phishing, ransomware, business email compromise, all of these things are on the rise. But the other side of that is also that companies are trying to do more with less. You know, with the impending global recession, budgets are being cut, and that includes in cybersecurity. So what that's meant is that we've had a renewed focus in two key areas. That is to be more efficient in what we do with our customers. So putting their data, their people, and our people, and using them in a more efficient way. So that is meant in making sure the data we're collecting for detection is fine-tuned, that the use cases and controls we build and design are as effective as possible at spotting threat activity. And then the other side is efficiency. So ensuring that with the resources we have and that our customers have purchased from us, how do we ensure that they get the maximum amount of coverage possible? So we've been investing heavily in automation and orchestration via SOAR type technology. So I would again recommend businesses that are, you know, struggling to keep up with, you know, the amount of attacks and, you know, the amount of tickets, and you're getting alert fatigue, to really look to technologies that can provide the basis to build processes that make you more effective at what you do by often being more efficient. One key area, and I think this would really help a lot of organizations in your threat management, is to start mapping to industry standards. So if there's one piece of advice from Adama, I would say look to things like the MITRE ATT&CK model and the new MITRE SHIELD model as well. These open and freely shared taxonomies and databases of attacker techniques enable you to actually look at what are the most common threat actors using to make sure that when you invest your time and your energy, you're going to get the most amount of control effectiveness for your spend. So with that, that is the end of my bit. So thank you for your time. As I said, please do join Cyber Scotland Connect if you're interested. As I mentioned, it's a membership-free organisation. There's no charge. We're here to support and enable. You can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and we've got a website with everything else on it. So thank you very much, and back over to you.
Thanks, Harry. Again, just to highlight the growing community and the growing integration in Scotland. And again, I think it's all about, for me, is providing a service. Gary started off in regards to sharing intelligence. Kirsty, also the bulletin, the COVID bulletin has been a great development. And Harry, the continued work of Cyber Connect Scotland and the STA going forward to secure businesses across Scotland. And I see Keith is on, and some of the work we're doing in regards to the third sector, private sector, public sector. sorry, I'll say all the action plans, and a big part of that one is the learning and skills in regards to looking at how we can engineer out cybercrime at source. So finally, I'm going to hand you over to another quiz kid, sorry if I can use that, Declan, on the latest, what you've been seeing in the last couple of months in regards to the sea change around the move from individuals maybe to corporations, and some of the stuff that Harry highlighted there in business email compromise, whaling, phishing, and such like. So over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Eamon. I'll just get set up here. And can we all see that all right?
Yeah, good to go.
Good. Yeah, so as Eamon said, I'm going to touch on the big headlines we've seen in the past few months. There's been quite a lot happening over the pandemic, as everyone is aware. But there's been a few kind of standout big cyber incidents that I'm going to touch on here today. So first of all, you can't really mention cybercrime during the pandemic without talking about all of the COVID-themed scams and phishing attempts, fake websites that you've seen Kirsty talk about already, and I've touched on in the past in various other webinars. So I'll not get into too much detail of that today, but just to remember to be vigilant when it comes to this stuff. And it's still an ever-present threat, even in the kind of almost returning to normal phases we're in today. But yeah, we'll move on from that. So the first big incident happened back in July, and this was on Twitter.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Sorry
Could you
about
rephrase
that. So we had seen, we've seen on Twitter of various high-profile Twitter accounts from individuals and companies, basically tweeting this tweet here. So this is an example from Elon Musk's Twitter, and that is that he was offering you to double Bitcoin investments if you sent him a certain amount of money. So here he's saying, if you send me $1,000, I'll send you back $2,000. And we've seen a lot of accounts doing this, ranging from Elon Musk, Barack Obama. We've seen high-profile companies tweeting about it, like Apple and SpaceX. So there was really a lot of accounts hit. So it went so far as to Twitter had to respond, and they basically highlighted the fact that they were aware of the security incident, and they took measures to prevent anyone with a verified Twitter account from tweeting, just so that they could stop this scam happening. And I know our very own panelist and member of SBRC, Kirsty, is fortunate enough to have a verified Twitter account, and she was telling me that even she couldn't tweet for a few hours on the day of the incident. So very interesting stuff. So it later transpired, and you can see here, this is an article from the New York Times, that the incident involved a few hackers discussing in a hacker forum, and they found someone that they claimed was an employee of Twitter, and this employee was saying that they had access to a Twitter admin panel that basically gave them access to all of the big accounts in Twitter, and really a lot of damage could be done through this account. It kind of later transpired that this person wasn't actually an employee of Twitter. They had actually managed to, and in Twitter's own words, create a coordinated social engineering attack that allowed a hacker to gain access to this admin panel, and basically use it to launch this scam. And really the extent of which the insider, or sorry, the attacker claiming to be an insider, the extent to which they had access to these Twitter accounts is still unknown. So we don't know if they had access to their private messages, kind of their all of the stuff that they can do on Twitter. So really, the damages are still unknown. In terms of actual financial damages, it's estimated around $200,000 was sent to the Bitcoin address. However, the reputational damages obviously were quite high, and now Twitter having to revisit their admin logins or their admin panels to really restrict the control that their engineers have over these Twitter accounts. So really, what did we learn from this incident? Well, we learned that access control is a very important thing. It's really important to make sure that not everyone in your organization has access to absolutely everything you can do. We've seen here that there were some engineers that had access to pretty much every high-profile Twitter account, and all it took was one of them to be breached. And then, obviously, we've seen the damage that could cause. And we've also learned that whilst it wasn't an insider threat, initially it was thought to be an insider threat, and insider threats do play a huge part and can affect every organization. And so that's something
Declan, I think we've lost your audio. Went off about a minute ago.
Still, Declan, we still can't hear you.
Is that any better? Can you
Yeah,
hear
we
me?
got you. Yeah, you're back now. Thanks.
Where did you lose me?
About 60 seconds ago. You were
Okay, I'll do the recap then of the Twitter incident.
No, we got the.
Oh, you got that? Okay,
yeah.
Right. So we'll move on then to Garmin. So Garmin, the popular kind of fitness technology company, they release various different tech pieces of tech to monitor your fitness, whether you're going out on a run or a cycle or something like that. So they, on the 23rd of July, their services went down. This is a screenshot here from their app. So you can see here that this is what the users of the app could see, is that basically nothing was working, and just to bear with them. So it took several days for them to kind of respond to what was going on. Apparently during the period just following the 23rd of July, as most of their communications went dark, they weren't receiving phone or answering phone calls or anything along those lines. And so there started to be speculation on what went wrong. And one of these kind of big rumors going around was that they were hit by a ransomware attack. And then on the 27th of July, their services slowly started to resume, but they also did announce that they were victim of a large-scale cyber incident, which later transpired to be ransomware. And they announced, or it is believed that they paid a multi-million-dollar ransom after suffering this cyber attack to get back online. It's believed this is the case, whilst Garmin haven't admitted it themselves, that they were hit by a type of ransomware called Wasted Locker, and various forensic analysts have kind of predicted that this is the type of ransomware that they were hit by. And the reason that we believe that they paid the ransom is because there are currently no known weaknesses or ways to decrypt this form of ransomware. So it's looking like that they paid a ransom, and reportedly up to $10 million was demanded. So pretty hefty sum to get this back online. So what did we learn from this? We always try and advocate to never pay a ransom when it comes to ransomware, because frankly, you don't know where that money is going. And unfortunately, more often than not, it is used to fund other forms of organized crime and nefarious activities. We also learned that it's always important to make sure your systems are backed up so that you can be in a state where you can recover if your systems are ever compromised and ever held to ransom. And then finally, they did take a while to respond, and it is always important to have a good media strategy in place when it does come to cyber incidents. It's always good to hold your hands up and say, yep, we've been affected, so that your customers can take the necessary actions if they need to. Moving on from Garmin, we also had another case of ransomware, and that is from the CRM provider Blackbaud. So around the end of July, a few universities started reporting that they'd been contacted by Blackbaud to let them know that they'd had a cyber breach, but no data was leaked. It transpired that this happened to Blackbaud in May, and it took them over a month to get round to contacting their clients. And then as this news kind of broke, we've seen that more and more organisations, it wasn't just universities, but also the National Trust and various charitable and kind of third sector organisations were hit with or were affected by this ransomware incident. Over 100 organisations reportedly were affected, and it was reported that Blackbaud had paid the ransom to the hackers, an undisclosed ransom amount, so that they could get their operations back up and running. Blackbaud have insisted that no copies of the data were stolen by the hackers, and that any data that the hackers may have had been deleted as part of the ransom negotiation. However, it's not often that you can trust the type of people that are out there hacking and breaking the law. So whether or not they actually did delete any copies of the data they had, many are skeptical about this. So we're not entirely sure. And the kind of fallout from this and the damage is still being assessed. We don't know the extent of which data was stolen, and we don't fully know the extent of which their clients and customers were affected. So what did we learn from this incident? Well, it's again really important to stress that if you can, it's really important to avoid paying the ransom. This again was an undisclosed amount, but speculated to be a very high figure, and you really don't know where that money is going. Again, it took them, Blackbaud, over a month to respond, and it is always important to own up when you do have a cyber incident, as it's really important that your affected clients and organisations can take the appropriate measures, whether that be changing their password or whatever they need to do. We also seen that the supply chains are really important here, because Blackbaud is used by so many universities and voluntary organisations that it is really important that they should have been alerted earlier so that they could respond as quickly as they can. And also I think it is worth noting that it's not necessarily the best idea to trust a hacker when they say that they have deleted copies of the data, because you can't be entirely sure that they are going to do that. And then the kind of final big incident that happened was the SANS Institute, which is an information security training company. On the 11th of August, they reported that a staff member of theirs had fallen victim to a phishing attack. They believe that 513 emails were forwarded to a hacker, and which the extent of resulted in approximately 28,000 user records of personal information being leaked. But what SANS did do is they owned up to this pretty quickly, as they are an information security company, and they even showed how the attack took place. So I can show that for you now. The unfortunate employee who was victim to the attack received this email, which looks pretty legitimate if you look at it, and it was a file shared, a copy of July bonus, 24th of July 2020. An Excel spreadsheet was shared. Once you clicked on the link, it would actually download a malicious piece of software. You can see this is the link here. So not an actual SharePoint link, but in fact some dodgy link to download a file. It downloaded a malicious piece of software that scanned for keywords in this person's email, and when any of these keywords were identified, the email would be forwarded on to the hacker, which resulted in that rather large breach. So for the last time today, what did we learn from this cyber incident? Well, it's very important to watch out for phishing emails. As you can see, they can cause just as much damage as ransomware or any other major cyber attack. So keep an eye out for phishing emails and use the appropriate advice out there to try and prevent falling for them. and also that even the experts, they can fall victim to cyber incidents. So no one is safe. And speaking of experts, I'll pass you back to Eamon.
Firstly, that's the second mistake. I would never pontificate to be an expert. Thank you all for your wonderful presentations. We've kind of had a look at the questions as we've been going through. Thank you to all the participants for, hope you got something out of today. Some key pickups for me and from Gary will be, sorry, I'm not mentioning Gary individually, but from Gary, Harry, Kirsty and Declan are, yes, we need to support each other through this pandemic. Kirsty's acronym in regards to COVID, and also replicating or reinforcing the acronym FACTS in regards to staying safe and supporting each other in the virtual and real world. We know it's going to increase. The transition from real world to online crime is increasing, and we need to support each other. And some of the initiatives mentioned today, we would encourage you to become a part of. But also understanding the mistakes that compromise your company's cybersecurity from a psychology perspective, looking after individuals. And I'll publish an article by Tessian in regards to that. It's an interesting read. Again, I'll advocate, we're here, the SBRC, the Cyber Hug, the integrated community, to keep to repel cyber resilience and reduce victim opportunity. And if there's anything, comments, good, bad, indifferent or otherwise, please get in touch with us at the SBRC. Some new initiatives coming up in regards to incident response and other stuff to try and integrate the community and provide better security all around, and to share that dynamic intelligence in regards to the threats that Declan highlighted. If there's nothing left for me, I just wanted to say thank you to all our presenters. Thank you to Claire for organising. Thank you to you, most importantly, for attending. And again, should you wish to be part of one of our cyber webinars going forward in regards to promoting your business, promoting safety, integrating your group, your sector, because I see there's representatives from many sectors in regards to the financial sector, credit unions, Keith, Robbie, our trusted partners, our incident response cadre. So thank you to everybody. We have recorded it and it's available on YouTube. And it just remains for me to wish you all a good day. I'll say to Kirsty, did I leave anything out?
Just your Scottish Business Cares programme that you've launched as well. So there's lots of support, not just on cyber, but a variety of webinars, series and things that is available as well.
Of course, the Scottish Business Cares mentoring programme, again, in taking young businesses and mature businesses through the current crisis we have around furloughing, mentoring, and highlighting other issues. So thank you all. I'll say, won't delay you any further. It's bang on 1 o'clock. Good timing. Have a great day and enjoy your weekend. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.